who we're going to see.
Oh yeah, I see the live symbol here.
Yeah, so I think it takes a few seconds before it goes through.
Okay.
So I was saying, just make sure you've got the volume off there on the other side.
Yeah, that's good.
Don't want any weird.
I hate that when you get the feedback.
Yeah. Little things you learn.
Yeah. All right. And guys, if you're seeing this, just let us know when you can see me, and then I'll get into it.
There we are.
Guys and girls, I should say.
Okay, so we're live, I believe.
Okay, sounds good.
Let me let's have a look. Okay, so hello all. Thank you for turning up. I realize it's morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. It's 8 p.m. here. I believe it's morning time, States. So just want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. So today I'm here with Jeremy Reeves, and let me switch over to Jeremy now. And basically, Jeremy is what we call an expert in sales funnels, which is something I'm certainly not. So I'm really excited to talk to Jeremy today. And basically, he's been responsible for adding over $50 million in revenue for his own personal clients through sales funnels. Obviously, an essential piece of marketing for any business. So I'm just going to hand straight over to Jeremy, and Jeremy's basically going to show us how to pick our businesses up and march forward. So, hey, Jeremy, and it's all, I'll hand over to you. Let's go.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So I'm excited to be here. Before I get into everything, I want to kind of preface the whole thing and just let you know that I woke up, well, actually yesterday, and my throat hurts. So if you see me taking little water breaks very frequently, it's because my throat is killing me. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. And my voice starts to like get squeaky or hoarse or any kind of weird stuff like that. That's why. But yeah, a little bit about me. I'm not going to do a real long intro. Basically, I'm a sales funnel specialist. So I kind of started off, if you guys are familiar with the term copywriter, I'm a direct response copywriter, started off with that. And then I quickly realized that I actually had just as big of a strength in marketing, in strategy, as I did with actual copywriting, actual sales copy, like the words that you put on your page to sell. Copywriting is essentially, if you think of it, salesmanship in print. It's an easy way of thinking it like that. So I started copywriting in 2008, I think it was. So it's been about 7 years or so. And I started, a lot of my clients were saying like, hey, why aren't you charging for your marketing strategy? And I said, well, that's a good question. Maybe I should, so I started doing that and started. So it's a little bit of a mix of, the strategy versus the copy. And you need both, because what I realized is, if you have really good copywriting, but there's no strategy behind it, you're going to do really poorly. And if you have good strategy but bad copywriting, you're going to do really poorly. So you kind of need both of them. And that's really what, sales funnels are, is, it's a strategy to get people in an automated kind of process to help sell, more prospects into customers, and, essentially get more prospects and then turn more of those into more customers, and then turn more of those customers into repeat buyers, and help kind of improve all your metrics, so that's always fun. So like Nathan said, I've produced around $50 million in results for my clients, for some of my side businesses, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of experience behind what we're going to talk about today. And actually what we're going to talk about is the top 8 insights that I've kind of, gotten after getting all those results. And, and I've had experience in, actually one of my mistakes was being really broad with my clients. It's a really good thing, and it's a hindrance at the same time. It's a really good thing because, I can look at something in one industry and be able to place it in another industry and have it work really well, So it's going to be kind of cool to go through everything. So that's enough about me. We'll get into the good stuff. So the first one, I have some notes here. I'm not going to really do them in any order. The first one we'll just kind of start right off. The first one is timing is everything, right? So when you're building a funnel, when you're, think about any time that you're going to buy something, because what we're talking about here is how to sell more, essentially. Think about any time that you're going to buy something. You never buy it. Like, you might want something, you want whatever it is, a new car, just for example. Okay, so you go out, first thing is you figure out you need a car. Second thing is, okay, what kind of car do I want? Third thing is, where am I getting the car? So there's kind of like the 3 stages of the buying cycle. And that's how you have to think about the timing is what stage are my customers, my clients in? What stage of that buying cycle are they in? And that's kind of, that's, you can think of that in terms of getting the prospects, but also selling the prospects, and then also, repeat customers. So if you think about this, this is why we do stuff like upsells, right? In my kind of world, there's a thing called upsell chains, one-click upsells, that kind of thing. So whereas you buy a first product, and let's just say you go out and it's an information product, right? I just bought a thing on weightlifting. So you buy that, and then the next page, instead of saying, hey, thanks for your purchase, here's where to download it. People are in, they're in the moment. They're in heat in that moment. Just really good example. I just started getting really into cooking about, I don't know, 6 months ago or so. So I've always liked to cook, but I like to get into hobbies a lot. And that was, I did one before that. And now, the last one that I got into was cooking. So, and you guys probably have done this, you buy something, it's like, oh, I'm going to start this new hobby, and this is going to be so fun. And then you buy the first thing, and then all of a sudden you buy that first thing, and then in the next 2 weeks, you've bought in like 15 different things, so, I went out, I got a new knife, I got all new appliances, I got all new, I spent like probably $1,500 on all this new cooking stuff. I signed up, I'm actually, I got certified as a chef. That's because I kind of go to the max with everything when I do that. But that's how your buyers are too. So you have to think of like timing. When they first buy something, they're in the moment. They're in heat for whatever it is that you're selling them. So take that time to sell more. And I'm going to get into this. Let's see. The third one here is don't be afraid to sell. So we'll get into this a little bit more. But the kind of the key takeaway here is there's 2 things. Number one is when somebody buys something, okay? Now, if you're selling some kind of product, whether it's a physical or an information product, you can have what's called a one-click upsell, okay? So somebody buys something, and then the next page is, hey, you just bought product A, why don't you take a look at product B, right? And you do that because they're in the moment. They just bought, they're really excited. They want to get the result that they're going for, that you're going to help give the solution for. And just doing that, I've seen increases in revenue of 30, 40, 50% just from that. Okay. One of them that I just did, and going back to the timing, this is actually a really new test for me. I think this is the first time I'm saying it live. Yeah, it is, because I've only told 2 of my private coaching clients this one. So this is actually the first time saying this live, but just for a quick example of what you can do with selling people immediately after buying, I have a side business showing guys how to dress better. So there's 2 products. There's a $27 product and a $147 product. So they buy the PDF for 27 bucks. The next page is a thank you page that says, hey, thanks for buying that. Do you want to check out the video course? And we have it for 50% off, right? So it was like 77 bucks. So we were doing that, getting a couple % conversion rate, which is really, really bad. The market's it's a weird market. It's a very high quantity market, but low quality market. As compared to like business, where it's a lot more like everything's more expensive, but the buyers are a lot more high quality. So there was that, and it was doing a couple %. So I changed it, and this just goes to show you how important timing is. I changed it and said, hey, that was just like, hey, it's $77 on this page. You leave the page, that goes away, right? And that's what everybody does. So I said, well, what if we change that? And what if we don't make it like, don't put the pressure on them so bad, so hard. And I set up a funnel. There's a thing I use called deadline funnel. I set it up so that they go and they have until the next day at midnight right? So it's, you know, they bought it, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon here. So they buy it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday until Friday at midnight, they can get it at that price. So we did that, and now the conversion's at about 15%. So they went up like 5 times just from that, just because, you know, they needed a little more information. So we have, you know, we have, they can buy it on the page, and then they get an email when they buy that says like, hey, thanks for your, you know, thanks for your order, blah, blah, blah. Then they get and a reminder to go back to that, you know, back to that page. And then they get another one, I think it's like 12 hours later, and then another one the next morning. Or no, it's immediately when they buy, and then the next morning, and then the next night at 6 o'clock. Okay, and that's all we did. And conversions went up by 5%. So it just shows you like the power of timing here. The next one is the understanding the buying cycle. So I have a client who basically he works with doctors. Okay, and we're setting up a funnel now where, you know, people are coming in, they're coming in for hair transplants, right? So, and a lot of you guys are probably in the service industry, you know, you're using proposals, you're probably in the service industry. So a lot of your clients, the buying cycles, it probably isn't, you know, 24 hours. If you're selling a $7 product, you know, it's an impulse buy. A lot of your customers probably are not doing impulse buys. They're looking at you, they're looking at some of your competitors, they're thinking about it. Maybe they have to have meetings about it, you know, that kind of thing. So you have to understand their buying cycle and talk to them based on what part of the buying cycle that they're in. You know, so if you get, and it's really different in every industry, like what the cues are for what stage they're in. You know what I mean? But you have to, so, you know, you have to think about how this works for your industry. But think about, there's typically 2 to 3 different kind of stages that they go in. And like I said before, like buying a car, there's the moment that you realize you need a car, okay? And then, you know, think about this in terms of your businesses. There's the moment that, you know, the moment that you realize you have the problem, which is you need a car. My sister just bought a car because her old one, like the radiator broke or something. So that's the moment, you know, that she realized she needed a car. Then the next stage was, okay, well, what kind of car do I want? Do I want an SUV? Do I want a, you know, just a regular car? Do I want a sports car, a minivan? You know, there's like 85,000 kinds of cars now. So that's kind of the second stage. Third stage is, okay, I want, you know, an SUV, you know, where do I go to get it? So now they're in, okay, who am I buying it from? Okay, and that's the third stage. So think about how that fits in your market and talk to them in that way, because you're going to give them different information based on what stage they're in. You know, the first stage is kind of gonna, it's gonna be, you know, hey, you know, you're gonna be kind of building, you know, bonding relationship, kind of, you know, building trust with them, because they just realized you had a problem, and you know, start building a relationship with them, so that when they get, you know, later, like, you don't want to be too pushy at that stage, because they're not ready to buy. So why would you push them into buying? Then you move them down the line. They're in the second stage, and it's like, what kind of car? So you could show them, you know, you could talk to them about the different types of cars. You could talk to them about the various benefits and pros and cons and stuff about the types of cars, and, you know, things like that. And then the third stage, that's more of like, hey, like think of like a competitor comparison chart. You know, that's more of like the third stage, where they're actually looking, researching, which person do I go with? You know, which company do I go with? So think of it that way. So that is timing is everything. That's the first thing that I learned. And all of those, I've used those in various ways with all my clients to, you know, to kind of increase their revenue. The second one, actually, I'm going to take a quick little drink here. And actually, okay. By the way, if you guys have any questions, just throw them in the chat. We'll I'll take a break after each of them, and then and I'll get like one quick question in between them. So if you have any that pop up in your mind while I'm going through this, just throw it in the chat. All right. So the second one is segmentation is the future of marketing, and I truly believe this. You know, a lot of I always laugh in January of every year, or at late December of every year. It's like, oh, you know, the trends. You know, here's what's going to happen. Here's the predictions of next year, and all that kind of stuff. One of them that really is true is segmentation. Okay, segmentation. The real key to this is it allows you to talk specifically to people about their frustrations and their problems, and how your solution is specifically designed to help them overcome that problem that they're having, or that frustration. Okay, that is the real power of segmentation. Okay, there are a lot of different ways to segment your audience. There's three different kind of types of segmentation. There's behavioral segmentation, interest-based segmentation, and buying cycle segmentation. So we already talked about the buying cycle, so I won't really get into that too much. But again, you can see how you can, like, if you had certain clients, you would talk to them very differently, and I talked about that a minute ago. So that's the buying cycle segmentation, and then there's behavior-based segmentation. And that typically, like, if you guys are selling online, it's really, really easy to do. You can actually follow people. So for example, on my website, I have a couple different services, products, things like that. I have a whole bunch of different lists that people can go on based on like what they, there's like I have webinars, and basically they get on a prospect list. I try to get them to become a client or whatever. So I have one page. So I have one service that's called a funnel day, right? And it's basically like an in-person consultation day. So if people are on my list and they go to that page, it pauses any sequence that they're on, any kind of like prospect sequence or whatever they're on, and then talks to them specifically about funnel day. Okay, and that's what I mean by behavioral-based segmentation, because those people are obviously interested in funnel day. So, you talk to them specifically about that. Another way of doing that, I do this with automated webinars a lot. This for this webinar I can't really do it because it's live, but I guess we could. But for automated webinars, one of the things you can do is you can actually people show you, say you have, I don't know, 100 people, that go through your webinar that you set up that's automated. At the end of that, you can set up different email campaigns based on the behavior they took. So typically with automated webinars, there's people who registered but didn't attend, people who registered and stayed up until basically they dropped off before your call to action. So let's just say the webinar was an hour, and the first 45 minutes was content, and then the last 15 minutes was your call to action, telling them to do whatever, buy your product, but apply for your coaching or whatever it is. So that was at 45 minutes. Well, anybody who didn't make it to 45 minutes, they would go in that one. And then the last one is people who stayed past 45 minutes. So they saw your offer, but they still didn't buy. Okay. And the way that you can talk to them differently is the people who registered but didn't attend. Well, you want them to watch the replay because they didn't even see anything that you did. So that the first step is watching the replay. And let's just say there's, I don't know, 3 to 5 emails in each of these sequences. The second phase, or the second segment, is people who they registered, but they dropped off early. Okay, and with those, that's kind of like a hybrid. Like the first 2 or so are to watch the replay, and then the last 3 are telling them about your coaching program or whatever it is you're selling. And then the last one, of course, they saw everything, so you're just sending them right to the, telling them about the coaching program. Okay, so you could kind of see how you would talk to them differently. And then the last kind of segmentation that you can do is interest-based. Okay, so a really good example of this is weight loss. Okay, so think of how you would, think of someone that that needs to lose weight. Okay, and think of one guy and one girl. Okay, and think of, just picture in your mind, like, okay, if I were selling a weight loss product, and I always use weight loss examples because everybody's familiar with that. Like if I started talking about a really obscure industry, nobody would really like kind of get it. So think about how you would sell a weight loss product to a man, and then think about how you would sell it to a woman. I'm sure you would agree that you would talk to them very differently. The way, the way your tone, like with the guys, it'd be a lot more, it'd be not a lot more, but it'd be more like aggressive than with the female. You can't be telling a female she's a big fat slob, you'd get punched in the face. Versus, a man, you could say like, look, we both know, like, look, it's, it was you that kind of caused this, but it's also you that can fix it, whereas that would be a little bit too rough to talk with the female. Females, you're gonna be a lot more soft, a lot more emotional with them. Whereas guys, they're girls, think about this, even, if you guys have wives or girlfriends, I don't know if you guys are fixers like I am, but I know whenever my wife's upset about something, my immediate solution is, how do I fix it? That's where my brain goes. How do I fix it? That's how most guys think. Girls do not think like that. And that's why most guys and girls have, kind of, spats. So that's kind of, that's how you would use interest-based, is segment them based on their interest. So you could do, if you're selling a weight loss course, you have a thing in your autoresponders. Hey, are you a man or are you a woman? They click a button and you can put them into a sequence based on that. So you could have two lists. One is just women, one is just men. I have my same side business. We have kind of do the same thing. We've been testing now, and we have 3 segments. So we have guys, like the reasons guys want to look better. And there's confidence, there's to pick up girls, and there's professionally. So they want to like be able to get that little extra advantage to get raises and to get better business deals and things like that. Because, when you dress better, people respect you more subconsciously. And there's a lot of science behind that. So that's how you could do interest-based segmentation. It's really easy to do. Most autoresponders anymore can do that. Things like Active Campaign, I think it's like $99 a month, something like that. It's totally worth it. Or if you're using like a CRM, Entreport or Infusionsoft or HubSpot or something like that, Hatchbuck, that's another one. They can all help you with that. It's really easy to set up, right? So and to show you the actual power of this, I did one of this for one of my clients. He owned basically he used to be a personal trainer and then started showing other personal trainers how to, run a successful personal training business. So we split his campaign. So he had like his whole, marketing campaign. We split it up. The first email they got, it was, I think 2 or 3 emails asking them to tell us. And it was like, hey, we want to be able to send you more relevant information. Just click one of these buttons and we'll send you more, more information that's relevant to exactly, kind of what you need, what you want. We did that. There's 3 segments. And so instead of like, just say 10 emails going out to everybody, there was like 10 in each segment. So there's a little bit more work, but he increased that marketing campaign by 270% by doing that. And it's because you can talk to people specifically about what, the very specific solution and problem that they're having. All right. So that is number 2. And I hear a whole bunch of like little beeps. So I'm gonna look up.
There's a few of those coming through. There was actually a question already, but I don't know if you want to bunch those together again, or do you want to answer them as you go through? It's up to you.
Yeah, let's put them together. Nathan, while I'm gone, can you kind of like kind of bunch them together, and I'll go through them at the end? That would actually be a little bit.
No problem.
Yeah. So number 3 is don't be afraid to sell. A lot of people are very nervous. They're very shy about putting offers in front of their audience. Okay. It's understandable because you've probably been, you grow up and, you hear like, oh, salesmen are bad and, selling is bad and all that kind of stuff. And it's just complete and total just nonsense. It's only bad if you're doing it for a self-serving reason. Okay. Think about it this way. You're in business to help people. I'm sure everybody would agree with that. You're not, hopefully, you're in business to help people, not to take advantage of people. So if you're only selling products that are going to help people, why would you be nervous about selling them? Or why would you be shy about selling them? Okay. What I do, and a lot of people, I get a question a lot about emails, like how do you sell in emails? Is it every email? Is it every 3 emails? Whatever it is, what's the percentage? The percentage of how many pitches you put in each email is 100%. Okay. Now, with that said, you don't want to just send pitches out in every email. Okay. You want to lead with value, give some kind of lesson, and then transition that into just a short little like soft pitch about why they should, whatever it is, apply for your coaching or, call you or buy your product or whatever you're selling, that's kind of the formula is lead with some kind of, lead with a lesson, a story with a lesson in it. I do that a lot. It's really, really good for bonding and, kind of, bonding and trust building, kind of resonating with your market, that kind of thing. So two examples of this is in my side business. And this goes to show you how true this is. We just started doing affiliate emails once a week. Okay. Again, each one is a valuable lesson. And again, these are younger guys. They're like, 20s, maybe like 18 to 25 ish. So the two big things for them are they want to look better. So that's like, we show them how to look better in clothes, and then, but also with fitness. And that's one of the affiliate offers that we do. And then the other one is a lot of them are interested in finding girls. They want to look more attractive to find, to go out and find, girlfriends and things like that. Right. So we do affiliate offers once a week. And by doing that, we increase the total revenue, not revenue like in one part, but total revenue in the business by 25% by doing that. Just one email a week. And that goes to show you, again, each email, it's not, hey, this is a cool product, go buy it. It's, like for weight loss, it's like you talk to them about like one cool weight loss thing. One of the things we just sent one out today, and it was about intermittent fasting. And there's a lot of science behind it and all that kind of stuff. I won't get into it, but it was about that. And then it's like, hey, if you want to go check out, get more information about this, you could check out this guy. That was the pitch. And that's it, just a quick little link, boom, they go, they get more information, and anybody who's interested in it is going to buy it. And everybody who's not, well, they just got good value. So it's a win-win for everybody. Another one is there's been a lot of tests. A lot of people are like, oh, with their emails, it's, how frequently do I send them out? Okay. This one is a little bit different in every industry. Okay. Email frequency is a big topic. It's a little bit, there's no like, every 2 days or every 3 days or every day. It's a little bit dependent on, a lot of it is about the buying cycle. So for example, if somebody's just starting to get research, you don't want to hit them every day because they're not ready to buy. Whereas if they're getting closer to buying, then you could go closer to that everyday kind of mark. It also depends on the personality of the business. It depends on what kind of content you're giving them. So like if you have some kind of like news site, that kind of thing, you could email them every day with like new articles, new, whatever it is. So it really depends. But overall, I can guarantee you that if you email more, you're going to make more money overall. Okay. I've never, ever, ever, ever literally seen a case where if either in my businesses or my clients' businesses, if they started emailing more, they made less money. It has never, ever happened. I've never heard of it from a single person ever. That's how, and I'm not exaggerating with that, by the way. So just, if you want to make more money, like honestly, I always tell my clients, if you want to make more money right now, email your list more often. It's really as simple as that. But again, you have to make it valuable. You can't just send pitches out. That's really, really, really important. So that's don't be afraid to sell. That's number 3. Number 4, I'll take a quick little drink. Number 4, and this one is getting away from marketing a little bit. It's getting more into productivity and just like your mental ability to think is focus will set you free. One of the biggest shifts that I've ever made in my business was focus. I know everybody on here, you're entrepreneurs, all of our brains work, there's like, if everybody's brain is like this, all of ours work like this similarly, I don't think I've ever met like an actual entrepreneur who thought like, over here. We all have a very similar way that our minds work, and one of those things is we want to do everything, this new shiny object, that's why they call it shiny object syndrome. This new marketing thing comes out, they want to do it. The new media platform comes out for traffic. There's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's AdWords, there's a million different things. Every time there's a new one that comes out, everybody jumps on it and wants to do it. And what happens is every time you start something new, it dilutes your focus on what's actually working. I was actually just, and I'm guilty of this too. I was just actually looking through my businesses. We do we have a team meeting every Monday, and we were talking about what can we do better, blah, blah, blah. And we came up with three different things that were working for us. And then we got distracted. So we did this thing, there's three different things, but we did it, it worked. And then we just stopped doing it and did something else for no reason. Just because, so I'm guilty of it too. So don't feel bad if you do that. But so there's kind of three or two different things here. Is number one is a focused audience. So you want to make sure that you're talking to a very specific audience. You're not talking to everybody. So it's again, there's a lot of people on this, so everybody's gonna have a different business. But make sure that, for example, if you're speaking to entrepreneurs, your market shouldn't just be entrepreneurs. It should be entrepreneurs, maybe in a particular industry, or maybe, there's a lot of different ways that you can break it down, but maybe they're in a particular industry. So for example, entrepreneurs in the tech space, or entrepreneurs in the health industry, or something like that.
Sorry, Jeremy.
Yep.
I just going to say, underneath the chat, there's actually a little volume icon, and you can toggle that volume off if it's distracting. So every time it pings.
Oh yeah, that's weird. It was. Can
you see that?
Yeah, I just clicked it off. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Now I have moved.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I just clicked that off.
So you're on focus.
Yeah. Speaking of focus, so focused audience, that's number one. The number two thing is focused workspace. Okay. When you sit down, and think of, this is how I do my schedule. This is how I stay productive. Every quarter, so actually we're coming up, it's March 24th now. So in a week, I'll be doing my planning. Actually, I'll probably do it, I don't know, next weekend, maybe even this weekend. So I'm going to plan out the whole second quarter. Okay. Not individually, not every little tiny specific thing to do, but the big picture stuff. So, that kind of looks like, okay, get a new campaign running and profitable for this service, or something like that, like a higher level kind of thing. Then I break it down to monthly. So every month, so again, at the end of this month, I'll do it for the quarter, and then also April. So, you start at the quarter. What are the big overarching goals for the quarter? Break it down. Okay, there's 3 months in a quarter. How, what are we going to do every month? So, and that, in terms of granularity, you bring it down, kind of one notch. And then, was that my phone or yours? I heard it up. That's mine. I'm going to turn it off.
That's yours, I think.
Sorry, I forgot to turn my phone off. I have 19 text messages. And then you do, weekly, and, every Friday afternoon before I'm done for the week, or every Sunday night. I'll do my every day. When I woke up this Monday, I looked at I use Asana for project management. I knew what I was doing every single day of the week. Okay. And if you don't have that, what happens is it comes back to shiny object. Something comes up. Oh, let's go over here. Something comes up. Oh, let's do this thing. Whereas if you have your days mapped out, it's like, all right, well, I already have my day planned, so I can't do that. When else can we do it? Can we do it next week or the week after, or whatever that is? So, and it just helps focus when you sit down. And I got this, the reason that I'm so productive, I think it helped me being a writer, because when you're writing, I don't know if you guys ever wrote whatever, a sales page or an email, whatever it is. When you're writing, if you can get into a flow state, you'll get anywhere from 4 to 10 times more done in the same amount of time. I've sat down and written. Now I work in 50-minute chunks. So it's 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off, 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off. Excluding things like this, that obviously doesn't count, but that's for writing. I've actually written 10-page sales letters in 4 hours, start to finish, just sat down, boom, 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 4 hours later, done. Most people that would take about a week. And it's because of that, when you get into that flow state, and I have like I could do a whole webinar on all this. I have all kinds of tricks for getting in. I listen to like binaural beats, and if you guys, it's basically like brain entrainment. And you listen to a certain music thing, and it like gets your mind into a flow state and that kind of thing. So I have a whole bunch of different things that I do with that. But you know, the point is, the more you focus, the more money you're going to make. You know, and it comes with if you have, you know, 2 products right now or 2 services or whatever, and you're thinking in your head like, oh, you know, I want to do this one and this one and this one and this one. It's like, no, maximize those first and then go to the next thing. You know, I meet so many people and it's like, hey, I want to do these 3 different projects, and it's like, all right, great, let's put them on your schedule, get the first one done. So let's just say, and I actually used this example yesterday. Let's say you have 3 projects that you want to do. Okay, a lot of people will do a little bit on each project every day. Okay, and let's just say that on average it takes you 3 months for 3 projects, so a month each. Okay, so if you're doing a little bit on each project every day, you're doing project A, and then the next day you're doing project B, and then 2 days later you're going back to project A and doing it that way. It's going to take you, at the end of 3 months, you're going to have 3 projects done. Now, realistically, it's probably going to be more like 6 months. But if you do it instead, project A until completion, well, then at the end of 30 days, you can launch that. You can make money from that. So then in months 2 and 3, you're making money from project A. Project B, you get money. You know, you do it in the second 30 days. So then in the 3rd month, you get money from that, and then and then it goes on like that. So you're getting all that money or all that momentum, if it's not anything you're selling, all that momentum in before everything's done. I've seen it's miraculous almost how much more you get accomplished when you focus like that. All right. So if you have, and I learned this like when I first started, I was doing, this is back in, I don't know, 2009-ish, something like that. I was doing, I had the copywriting business. I was doing affiliate marketing. I was doing like blog posts and things like that. And then I said, you know what? I'm getting rid of everything except for my copywriting business. And my income tripled that year because of that. Okay. So if you have, one of the things I tell my clients is, what's making you the most money? Just do an 80-20 analysis. Look at where you're spending your time. Okay. That's A. And then look at, okay, how much money am I making from each of the different things that I'm doing? Okay. So, list out like all of your different money-making activities. Maybe you have 4 different services. List out how much money you've made in the last, month, 3 months, year, whatever it is, from each of those. And then list out how much time went into those. And you'll find that, in most cases, you're going to be spending 80% of your effort on something that's giving you 20% of the results. So what you do is flip that, okay? And you spend 20% or whatever it is. You put 80% of your effort into the biggest one. So then instead of getting 20% of the result, you're going, whatever that math is, a lot more. And that's one of the big keys that I work on with people, because a lot of entrepreneurs are really, really distracted. They have way too many things going on. So getting that simplicity, and I actually saw somebody put in there, Mark. He, what if you're just starting out? Like, where do you know what to start? Where do you know, like where to start? Because there's so much to do, and it's very true. And I'll answer that a little bit later. But that's something I want you to think about, Mark. Is just think about doing one thing and make money from it, maximize that, and then go on to the next thing. It not only reduces a lot of that overwhelm that you're feeling, but it also makes you more money, which is nice. All right, so that's number 4. Number 5 goes into a lot of the stuff I was just saying, but a little bit more detailed. Okay, so number 5 is test before you perfect. Another way of saying this is get your foundation in place before you start doing like all the crazy fancy stuff. Okay, to put it eloquently. So I always like to say, when I'm looking at people's funnels, people's businesses, whether you have a funnel or not, there's kind of 3 stages that you're going to be into. Number 1 is the foundational stage. And this is like, I have a lot of clients, and they'll come to me and they're like, hey, Jeremy, I want to build this crazy advanced, super like just insane funnel. It has all these different segmentations, all these different pages, services, products, everything. And I'm like, all right, that's, that's great, but it's probably going to take like 4 or 5 months to build out. That's going to take a long time. And in the meantime, you're making zero money. So I always say, how about we get step A done and launch that, and then make money, and then, kind of prove the concept, get the foundation in place, okay, and then move on. It's kind of like if you're building a house, what do they start with? The foundation, okay, because the rest of the house can't stand unless there's a solid foundation that it's on top of, okay? So in the foundational stage, there's basically 4 different things that you want to have in there. Number 1 is your USP, your unique selling proposition. So that is basically number 1, who is your target market? Who exactly are you going after? And then how are you different than everybody else? And this is, a lot of you guys probably have services. It's really, really important when you're selling a service to be able, when you're on the phone with somebody, I always use this example. Imagine the last person, just think of the last person you talked to, okay? Or just imagine your ideal client. That might be a better way of saying it. Imagine your ideal client. Who is the perfect person to come and talk to you, okay? Now, imagine they're standing in front of you, okay? And there's you, and then there's 2 of your competitors on the side of you, all right? And they're looking at you and they say, okay, you guys, I want each of you 3 to tell me why I should do business with you and what makes you different from each other. Can you answer that question? Okay, now think about that for a second. Can you? If you can't, then it's time to go back to the drawing board and think about what makes you different. Why are people doing business with you? What makes you a better solution for solving whatever problem that you solve? Okay. If you can't answer that question, you have to, come up with something that answers the question. Come up with some kind of differentiating factor. And this is like a whole topic. You could do a whole weekend on this. But it could be the speed at which you do it. It could be the effectiveness. It could be that you do it. It makes it really easy for the person. There's a lot of different ways of thinking about this. But look at your competitors and you could even write down a list like, okay, they do, you list 3 competitors. So you're looking now at your people here. And you're like, all right, competitor A does this, 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 this. Competitor B does this, 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 this. And then you chart yours here, your C. And then you say, okay, well, I do this, 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 this. But hey, here's something that we can do that these guys aren't doing. So then you add that in. And then the next time somebody talks to you and says, hey, why should I use you? You say, oh, well, everybody else does this, 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 but we do that plus this, 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 whether it's cheaper, faster, more effectively, whatever it is. One of the ways that I differentiate myself is a lot of people, a lot of copywriters. There's kind of like two different things, just to give you a quick example. A lot of copywriters, it's kind of like they take the project and they just write it. There's really no process. Okay. I've come up with a really, really, really solid, we have like a 77-step checklist that we go through with every client. It's kind of ridiculous going through it, but that's why we write such reliable copy, because a lot of, and again, this is different in every industry, but a lot of my clients have come to me and it's like, hey, I went out and hired this guy and it was awful. Didn't hit the mark, wasn't even close, blah, blah, blah. So then I hired this other guy and it was like, okay, and I always say like, look, we everything that we produce is really, really high quality every single time, because we don't miss anything, because we know what has to be in there and we document everything. Okay. And then we have several people. It goes through me and then there's like 3 other people that look at it before the client even sees it. So I explain all that stuff. So when when I'm explaining that, they're like, oh my God, really? You put that much effort into it? Like even after you're done? I actually have a letter right now that's going out. I'm doing a final edit because it just went through like our round table of people. So, and it makes an impact. People want to know a lot of services. It's reliability. A lot of service providers are not reliable. So that's a good place to start if you're thinking of like, if you don't have a good USP, that's a good place to start right there. It's just showing that you're reliable. Really, really easy way of showing that you're reliable is showing up on time. I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to on the phone where it's, our meeting's at 2 o'clock. It hits 2 o'clock and I'm on the phone calling every single time, zero exceptions. And I cannot tell you how many people have complimented me on that. I got that one from my dad. He was like militant about being on time. And now I am. And whenever I'm on the phone and it's like, if it's 2 and it hits 2:01, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, but anyway, so I'll move on to the next thing. So there's so the foundational stage. So there's the US page, which I just talked about, and then you want to give them something, get people on an email list, because a lot of people, this goes back to the buying cycle, are not ready to buy right then. Okay, you have to kind of nurture them. All right, so you give them something for free, get them on your list. It could be a white paper, it could be a report, it could be a webinar, it could be a video, whatever it is, whatever you like to do. Like whatever you think, whatever would be easiest to get done for you, whether you could just, if you're somebody that can just hop on a video and pump out a video real quick, do that. Whatever is going to show, you're basically demonstrating expertise in this. It's called a lead magnet. You're trying to demonstrate expertise to provide trust, in that person that's getting on your list. And then you can have, prospect email sequence and that kind of thing to like just nurture them along. The next thing is, and this one is a little bit different for you guys, because if you have a service, it's a little bit different, but there's basically a core offer and then one upsell. So with you guys, it's more of like one core service and then one upsell. So with services, you're not really like, if I go, like I was saying before with our upsell sequence, they buy the PDF, the next page is, hey, do you want to buy the video? That doesn't quite happen in services, because in a lot of cases, in some cases you do, but in a lot of cases, you're talking to them on the phone, you close them on the phone, that kind of thing. So what you do in that case, what I do is I always, as I'm working with the person, so you close the project, and then as you're working with them, you start thinking of, okay, what's the next step? And you start just planting the seed as like during the project. And then as it's coming to a close, not after the project's done, but like in the last 20% or so of the project, like as it's starting to wrap up, and they think in their head, and again, this is going to be different because some people might be monthly contract or whatever. But as it's starting to wrap up, you say, hey, I realized while we were working together that you were also missing X. What about, why don't we just, kind of jump, we'll finish this, go right into the next thing, and that's kind of your way to upsell. And it's, I actually have that in our systems, like systematize that, put it, document it somewhere, because you will forget, I promise you, because I did that. And every service provider I know, it's not, you don't do it with every client. You say, oh, I'm gonna start doing that, and then you don't, because you're busy. You have 1,000 things going on in your head. So document it somewhere. And then the last thing is a buyer sequence. And this one isn't for you guys. I'll kind of just touch on it, just in case you have an information product. This one isn't quite relevant because you're probably talking to your clients. This is more like if you have a product, like a physical product or an information product or something like that. But basically the buyer sequence is they buy it and then you help them kind of through the purchase. For example, I've if you're selling a supplement, just say it's a supplement for, all natural arthritis, medication, that kind of thing. Some of the things that you can do with that is telling them about, how to take it, making sure it's, they make it a habit, that kind of thing. So they don't forget to take it, have them, you can give them tips on eating healthier and drinking more water, exercising certain, mobility exercises, things like that, which is going to all enhance the, the value that they're getting from what they buy from you. So that's kind of like the, the whole buyer sequence. And again, it's not that relevant for you guys. So the next stage, after you have that in place, you want to really nail down, you want to be able to, accurately, or not accurately, but consistently sell whatever it is that you sell. The next stage is the maximization stage. And that's where you start doing things like segmentation, adding more products and services. You start getting your business so you could scale it. And then also do hybrid marketing. So if you guys aren't using offline, I highly recommend it. Maybe not now, but once you have your foundation in place, when you're at the point where you're like, all right, we're doing really well, how do we go to the next level? That's kind of what this stuff is, right? So and you guys will know, like, if you're in that stage or not. So segmentation, again, that comes back to like you're segmenting emails, you're segmenting on buying behavior, you're segmenting your hyper buyers from your regular buyers, that kind of thing. More products and services, that's pretty, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're just adding more services. One of the things that I always recommend for service providers is, I would say at least 90% of people that I've talked to in the service industry are not charging enough money. It's the fastest way to make more money is just charge more, and what you have to do with this is just get more leads. When you get to the point where, like, I always say, like, the best spot a service provider can be is having too many leads to be able to service, because number one, any leads that you can't handle, you can either grow your team to be able to like increase your efficiency, so you can handle more people. Or if you don't want to do that, then you can just refer those leads to other people and get a commission or a referral fee from anybody that you outsource. So I do a lot of that. It's just a nice little extra income stream, and you don't really do anything. You just forward the email and they take it, and if it closes, you get money, and plus you're helping that person because they're finding somebody that's trustworthy. Scalability, that's pretty much, again, when you're in the stage that you want to take things to the next level, up to that stage, you can do a lot of things like, like this, I call it authority marketing. You're getting on a live webinar, you're going on a podcast, you're doing guest articles, you're doing referrals, that kind of stuff. It works well for getting clients. It's not good for scalability. It's good for like kind of one-time hits. But if you're looking to go from, a couple 100,000 into the 7 figures, you're basically going to need paid traffic. So you basically have to figure out how to put a funnel together that you're putting $1 in and you're getting $5, $10 back from that. And basically the best way service providers, Facebook is a really good way for most to do that with. Even Instagram's one. I haven't tested it yet. But literally every person that I talked to so far is doing really, really well with Instagram. So that's something that's on my list actually for next month to test out. So I don't have any results there yet, but hopefully I will soon, good or bad. And then hybrid marketing is do things like 2 big things with this. Number one is if you can get a mailing list for, think of whoever your ideal client is. If you can rent a mailing list and do postcards to something like an automated webinar, a lot of people will do, it's even for service providers, you do Facebook and it's the Facebook ad, they go to either an automated webinar, they register for the webinar, and then they go through the webinar, they go to an application page, that kind of thing. Or you send them right to a video and then application page, that kind of thing. You do the same thing, but instead of using Facebook, you use a postcard. Okay. And it just works. It works. I actually did a campaign. He was in the mortgage industry, and we did a campaign. It was a 3-step campaign. So we had, the first one went out. Kind of think of this as like resending to unopened emails. So the first campaign went out. Everybody who didn't call him from that, or everybody who did, we took them off the list and then sent the second one to the people who didn't. Okay, and then, again, for the third one. We only got the second one, and he actually called me and told me to stop the campaign because he was overbooked, just from the first 2. And that's how well that it can work when you really, and it doesn't happen like that every time. We really nailed down like exactly his value proposition that he was giving to a really, really specific audience. And we just nailed that, and it worked really, really well. And then what he did was he took that campaign that I made for him, and he can use it whenever he wants. Whenever he wants more clients, he just sends that out and he gets them. It's awesome. So that's hybrid marketing. And then the last stage is this one. I always kind of just go over this one quickly. That's the perfection stage. That's when you have the perfect funnel in place. You have, it all mapped out. All of your, your holes in your bucket are filled, so to speak. Then you can go to the perfection stage. And that's basically when you're starting to split test. A lot of people split test way too early. And split testing, I'm a huge fan of. I used to be in the conversion rate optimization world pretty heavily. I actually got asked to work for some of the biggest guys in the industry. I just didn't want a job. But they were really, really awesome guys and girls. But once you're in this stage, it's all about testing. So let's just say there's 10 steps kind of in your funnel. There's like ads, and then an opt-in page, and then an email sequence, and then a sales page, and all that kind of stuff. Then you go back and you optimize each individual step. Okay. And then the other part of this is you want to know your metrics. So when you're doing and again, this stage comes after the maximization stage. So this should be when you're trying to scale. Okay. When you're trying to scale the business. You really, really need to know your metrics in this stage. So you should know things like, for every person that hits your website, how much money do you make? How much is your average client worth to you? Over X amount of time is over the first project, and then lifetime is a good, you could do like the first month and then lifetime or something like that. You should know those numbers. Cost per lead, that kind of thing, cost per customer, how much does it cost you to get a lead? How much does it cost you to get a new client? Lifetime customer value, like I just talked about, and then value per visitor. Those are the four that I normally start with people, because once you know those numbers, then you can go and you can scale, because if you know, okay, it costs me, let's just say $10 to get a lead. And I got to do this math off the top of my head, so it might not be right. $10 to get a lead, and one out of every 5 of those leads becomes a customer, and they're worth $100. Well, that means that you're making $100 and you're spending $50, so you're getting 2-to-1 ROI. Okay, so that may or may not be good. You have to look and say, okay, is that acceptable? And then if it's not, then you go back and say, okay, how do we get that to 3-to-1 or 5-to-1 or 10-to-1 or whatever it is? But you have to know those metrics, or you can't scale. It's impossible, because you'll end up just spending too much money. So that is test before you perfect, and that's kind of like taking things one at a time rather than wanting too much of this. You don't try to go too fast. And I see it's already coming up on 5, so I'll try to go a little bit quicker for the last 3. So the next one is number 6 is market research is underrated. And again, I got this from my copywriting background. You can almost never know your client well enough. All right. And most people do not. They do not know who they're talking to. They don't know the frustrations they're going through. They don't know the objections that they have to working with you. Think about, can you list off 10 objections, that your clients have, or at least maybe not off the top of your head, but do you at least have them written down? And then, because then when you're doing your emails, well, your emails are based off the objections, and you're overcoming them with proof and expertise. And, you're demonstrating that, that you can kind of give them what they want. So I use Amazon for this. So if you want to understand your customer, there's 2 major ways that you can, there's more, but there's 2 major ways that you can do it. Number 1 is Amazon. So whatever market you're in, look up books from experts in that market. Okay. So, for mine, I could look up, I do sales funnels, copywriting, marketing, that kind of thing. So I could look up marketing books, and you're going to look for 1- and 5-star reviews. And then you're going to read all the reviews. And again, Amazon is a great place for this because there's hundreds of them, sometimes thousands of reviews. And you're going to look for the emotional sentences in it. Okay. And that's why I do 1- and 5-star, because 1 star, you're looking for all the frustrations and the objections that people have. So you'll find like a lot of frustrations when you read these things. And again, you're looking for the emotional language. You're not looking for, kind of like neutral language, because when you're talking to people, you're talking to the frustrations they're having. They have some kind of problem. that you fix. Okay, so instead of talking about how you do it, you talk about how you're going to solve the problem. Okay, and the features, like how you do it, comes into that. But usually it's like, if you have a coaching program, a lot of people will talk about what you get, or if you're selling some kind of thing, it's what you get. Nobody cares what you get. They care about how you're going to solve that problem that they have. Okay. And that's how you should be talking. So go and look for those kind of emotional pain points. So you're looking for the who's, which we already talked about a couple times. You're looking for the frustrations and objections, and those are with the 1-star reviews. And then when you look at the 5, you're looking for the benefits. So this is more of why do they want the solution? What benefit is it going to, how is it going to transform their life? And that's where you're going to find in the 4 or 5-star reviews, that's where you're going to find that information. Because you have to talk to them about, and say, you have to resonate with them and show them that you understand the frustrations you're going through, and then switch that and say, here's how I'm going to help you solve that problem, and then talk about the benefits that they get from, when that problem is solved. Okay. And that's how you do it in Amazon. And then the other way is doing surveys. Okay, so just do a survey to. I usually do them. There's 2 of them. I usually do it to prospects who haven't bought. So, for example, you can do an exit pop-up on your page selling your main services or products, and say, hey, you were obviously interested, or you wouldn't have been here. What was it like? Why didn't you, move forward today? And people will answer you. And then the second one is buyers. So you survey buyers and say, hey, you bought, you obviously trusted us enough to spend money with us. What was the reason? What caused you to buy? And they'll tell you. And then that helps you get your USP. By the way, that's a good way to, like, if you don't really know your USP, ask your customers and clients why they ended up going with you. A lot of times they will tell you what your USP is, and you don't even know it. I've seen that a lot. A lot of people don't know it consciously, but subconsciously they're projecting it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So that's number 6. Number 7 is personality sells. So especially in the service industry, don't be a lug. Don't be like a snail. Whatever your personality is, it's not really about being some kind of like, really excited. You don't have to be like that if you're not, but be you. There's a guy that I've been following, Dan Kennedy, and this is a really good, like, you guys probably know, there's a lot of who's the fitness guy? He's like short. He has a real curly hair. He like bounces all around up and down. What's his name? I forget. Russell something. I don't know, whatever his name is. You guys might know who I'm talking about. But there's certain guys, they're very just, they're a lot of high energy, that kind of thing. But if that's not you, don't pretend to be like that. Be whoever you are, but be you. Don't talk to people in a corporate kind of way that's really boring and dry. Have some personality in your emails, the way you talk to people, that kind of thing. Tell stories. Stories are huge. One of the things that I do is, a lot with, when you're talking to people with email, a lot of it comes down to resonating with them. So I pick about 10 different things that I have in my life that are going to resonate with a percentage of the audience. So for example, I like the Philadelphia Eagles. My wife has epilepsy. My wife and I have a very, very good relationship. I'm a really big family man. I love spending time with my kids. I love, going out, and I actually like still playing video games. I know that sounds, crazy, but I've always been a gamer. From, oh my God, I was probably 4 years old when I started playing games. So there's that. And then even things like, when I'm not working, I like to do physical things. So like I have out here, you can't see it, but out my window here, I can actually see my kids playing in the yard right outside my office. There's right outside my office is our yard, and the kids are playing out there now. And then there's a fence, and then it drops down, and we have like an acre and a half of woods, kind of this way that you can't see. So I've been spending the last couple of years clearing out the woods, and I do it by hand, like not a chainsaw, but an actual axe, and doing like lumberjack style. So I talk about things like that, and it resonates with people, and it's very like, It's like, oh my God, this guy's weird. Why would he do that? But doing stuff like that, that's a good example of using personality. And then I tie it into some type of lesson, so like I do that, and it gets my mind away from business, because one of the things that I've found, and by the way, if you guys struggle from being able to let go of business, like mentally, I know that's a huge thing with entrepreneurs. You're always thinking about it. Do something that that you have to be in the moment. So for example, I've been getting into like handyman type stuff, like building things. So when you're, and I'm not a handyman whatsoever, I'm just learning all this stuff. But think about if you have a handsaw and you're cutting down a line, you can't be thinking about your next promotion as you're doing that, or you're going to lose fingers, So I've been doing things that get me, it forces you to get in the moment, in the present moment. Same thing with my kids. Like I don't take my phone out with me when I'm with them, things like that. So I have all these different little touch points. I have to come up with a word for it. But each one is going to resonate with a certain segment of my audience. When my dad passed away 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I talked about that for a while, and I cannot tell you how many emails I got from my audience that would say sorry, and oh my God, I lost my dad too, and it was a similar thing. It was cancer, and that kind of thing. And I would look back, and a lot of them ended up buying from me, and I don't take advantage of it. Don't do it so that people buy it. It's kind of a little shady, but just do it because you're resonating with the audience, right? So, and then the last thing in with this is stand for something. Don't be neutral on your thoughts. For example, here's a good example with how I do this, right? I am huge on not letting your business like overwhelm your life. I think that in today's world, you don't have to work 15, 16 hours a day. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes it happens. If you're doing a launch, if, you work with clients, we've all been there with clients where, you get that client that, you have to stay up until 2 a.m. It just has to get done. I understand that. That happens sometimes. But if that's the norm, there's a problem. Okay. So that's what I am. Like, I'm very being able to live a balanced life. You know what I mean? I get up, I work 6 to 3 every day. Actually 4 today, but it's unusual for me. So 6 to 3, and then I spend the rest of the night with the kids. Okay. 3 to 7, and then they go to bed. And then, then I spend the night with my wife or watch a movie or, whatever it is. But so that's one of my things, but stand for something, whatever it is, whatever you're very passionate about, stand for that, and don't be half-assed on it. Be, full-fledged. This is what I stand for. If you don't agree with me, I'm not the person that you should listen to. Okay. And trust me, it works really, really well, because again, people resonate with you, and you're going to repel people, but you're going to repel the people who wouldn't work with you anyway. And you're going to attract the people that would even stronger. Okay. And there's a lot of research and stuff on all this. And the last one is fast results creates loyal customers. And this one is really, really applicable to service, especially if, I'm in a business where this isn't going to be the case with everybody, but I'm in the business where people pay me X amount of dollars, and they want to see X amount of dollars times whatever, times 5, times 10. Okay. They expect that when they give me, just say $5,000, they're expecting 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 back. Okay. They give me 20, they're expecting 50, 100, 500 back. Okay. They're expecting a certain multiple of that. A lot of you might be in that similar thing. So one of the things I figured this one out about a year ago. Took me a while, but I started doing a thing where I would bring somebody on, and we'd be talking about price, and I'm in the like kind of mid to higher range. I'm not in the low end by any stretch of the imagination, because it's a horrible place to be, and you can't provide value to people because you're charging too much. You have to fly through products or through projects, that kind of thing. But I'm also not like the highest. There are people in my industry that charge like $500,000 for sales letters. It's ridiculous. So, but still, it's a good chunk of money for the vast majority of the clients that I work with. It's not a thing where it's like, oh yeah, the project's gonna be 20 grand. Okay, here you go. It's happened once or twice, but it's not that often. So what I do is when you can give people fast results, I always try to get them to at least break even as fast as I possibly can. So if they're paying me 10 grand, I always try to think, we sign the deal. My first thought is, how do I make them 10 grand? How do we at least get them to where they didn't lose money? And that's obviously the minimum standard. That's not what you're trying to achieve. That's just because when people are paying you money, they have anxiety. They're paying you a lot of money. Whether it's $100, $1,000, $10,000, whatever it is, they're paying you money. That anxiety stops, or at least significantly slows down, once you've made them their money back. It's kind of like investing in stocks. If anybody invests in stocks, you don't really feel confident until you at least get that money back. If you invest $1,000, as soon as you hit $1,000 back in your return, you're like, oh, thank God, I didn't lose money. Nobody likes to lose money. So think of ways that, and even when you're setting up your services and your products, set them up so that there's a quick win really fast and then long-term results. All right. One of the things that I do with a lot of my clients, just to give you a really good example of this, one of the things that I do is, if the client has a list, we do a quick promotion to their list. Okay. I did this with one of my clients actually. Now in this case, we did a rev share on it. So I didn't even charge them anything. I just said, hey, let's do this promotion. I'll take X%, and whatever we make, I just get that percent. But it's still kind of the same thing. But I do, if they have a list, I'd say it's 5,000-10,000 people, whatever it is. We do a promotion, some kind of promotion to generate money. And if I'm charging 10 grand and they make 10 grand, well, then my project is free. And I usually do that's kind of like part of what I do for them, that kind of thing. So then the whole rest of the relationship is so much better, because they're not like, oh my God, are you going to make me money? You're not going to make me money. Well, I've already made you money. So now the rest is just a bonus. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's number 8. And that kind of finishes it up. So let's go. Any questions people have?
Yeah. So I've taken note of some of the questions that were asked before. And actually Mark's first question was, he was wondering, what's the best way of actually understanding your market's buying cycle?
Yeah. So that comes, is it Mark Buzen? Is that, Richard Simmons? Okay. That's what I was thinking. But yeah, so Mark, you should be able to learn that. My advice there would be that you don't know the market well enough, and to spend a little bit more time researching the market before you start selling to them, or at least while you're selling to them. That's one of the things that you should know if you're in the market. I'm trying to think of how you can actually figure it out. I mean, honestly, I would say one of the things that a lot of nobody really does, but it works really well, is just call people. Just get on the phone and call people and just talk to them. A lot of people they'll just tell you. So I would say, number one, if you don't know that that answer to the question, it's because you don't know the market well enough, and it's going to be really, really hard to sell anything if you don't know who you're talking to. So spend a lot of time, and you can do take this weekend and just take the whole weekend just getting to know your market. Go into Amazon and things like that. And you can get to know them pretty quickly. Read 10 articles, read 5 books, and spend some time in forums or Amazon comments. And you can get to know them really quickly. And then the next thing is, if you know people in the market, just talk to them. Ask them how long it took to make a buying decision. You talk to 10 people, you'll get a really good understanding of kind of how long it takes. And then the third thing is, this depends on the market. Sometimes it's common sense. It depends on the market. So for example, typically the higher the price point, the longer the buying cycle. So think of a car, for example. You're spending 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 grand on a car. usually you don't just walk out of your house and buy a car an hour later. You've done some research beforehand. Same thing with services. If you're going to spend 5, 10, 20 grand with somebody, usually it's not like, okay, I need this, boom, an hour later you hire somebody. It's, you're looking at a couple people, things like that. So think of it that way too. The higher the price point, the longer the buying cycle, in most cases.
Okay, so we had another one from Mark. Mark's got a few questions here. So Mark has no list whatsoever at the moment, and is wondering the best way to start step by step. So I'm wondering whether that is referring to actually, sort of getting that first, that initial funnel set up, and what might be the best way to go about building those first funnels.
Yeah. So Mark, I would say if you don't have a list, like you're kind of just, totally from scratch, the best way that I've found to go out and just make money is get in front of your market, whatever your market is, think about in your head, okay, my market is X. Where's their attention? Okay, think about where their attention is. Are they reading industry journals? Are they, doing things online, like in forums? Are there certain groups that they're in, like conferences that they're going to, things like that? So where is your market's attention? And then put yourself in that. So just to give you an example of this, a lot of my market reads, a lot of like high level entrepreneurs, which are typically my clients, they're reading a lot of different blogs. So things like Crazy Egg, and Neil Patel is a couple of them. He's a badass. So there's neilpatel.com, there's Crazy Egg, there's Quick Sprout, there's Kissmetrics. There's a lot of these like big industry blogs. Okay, so I reach out and say, hey, can I write a guest article for you? Visual Website Optimizer is another good one. I actually made it's probably, I don't know, 125 grand from one single article. Now that was, it was a total, white whale. Most of them are not like that. But I just really nailed, hit a chord and resonated with the audience. And over time, I wrote it like 3 years ago. I just got another lead from it. I think it was the end of last week from that article. So basically the thing in there is find out where your market is putting their attention. Whether it's again blogs or industry journals or conferences, whatever it is, and then put yourself there, okay, and demonstrate your expertise. And then just have, hey, if you like this and you want to chat about doing a project or whatever, then then get in touch. Okay, that's where I would start. Do joint ventures with people, things like that. That's another way of thinking about that. I have a lot of joint ventures with people where, for again, in my industry, for designers, people that do SEO, people that do paid traffic, they all serve my same client but do different services for them. So I team up with them and say, hey, when you get a person that just paid traffic, for example, like a Facebook traffic guy, I say, hey, your clients are coming to you for paid traffic. Well, if they're doing paid traffic, they need a good funnel, so why don't you send them my way? And then if they, if I end up working with them, I'll give you a % of the project. Okay. So those two things that should help. That's kind of what I did to get my, my business off the ground. And it's definitely the best way to get started with that if you have nothing in place yet.
I've actually got a question myself. When people are setting up these first initial funnels in their business, do you have any sort of recommendation on software? Do you always try and push your clients towards a particular setup or a particular way of working, or is it just whatever they might already have in place?
Yeah. So I answered this question yesterday. I actually have the answer right in front of me, which is nice. So there's basically, when you're building these funnels, there's basically 3 different kinds of things you'll need. Now there's all kinds of software. There's tracking software. There's a whole bunch of different things. But the 3 kind of core pieces of software that you're going to need are, number 1, page builders. Okay. And this is like, this is to do it easily and quickly. There's page builders, split testing software, and then something for your emails and like your shopping cart. So page builders, I usually use, there's 3 of them that I use, either Optimize Press 2.0. So Optimize Press. And that's what I use most of the time. You could also do lead pages. And then the third one is ClickFunnels. Okay, so those should help you with page builders. That actually, like, you put the copy on the page. Okay, and then there's for split testing. I use Visual Website Optimizer, which I just mentioned about. I did that guest article for them. So I use them for split testing. Again, if you're just starting out, don't worry about split testing because you're gonna, that's really when a lot of people, they do split tests. And again, this comes back to the whole focus thing I was talking about. They're putting their focus on testing something when they haven't even gotten the foundation in place yet. Okay. They're trying too many different things when the foundation isn't there. It's kind of like building your roof before, the foundation is in place in your house. Okay. Just doesn't make sense. The roof needs to be there, but not until everything else is there. And then for the email and the shopping cart thing, that's a little bit more complicated. So if you can either go kind of the comprehensive route, which is a CRM, that's things like Infusionsoft and Entreport, and that gives you you have the email, you have a shopping cart, you have an affiliate system, that kind of thing. So that's like everything all in one, but they're $300 to $500 a month. So depending on where you're at in your business, it may or may not be feasible. I use Entreport. I love Entreport. Infusionsoft is good too. Those are probably the 2 that I would recommend if you're going the CRM route. Or if you want to start, if you're just starting out, or if you don't need all that stuff, a lot of people, I know, 7-figure businesses that don't use that because they don't need it. There's no point in paying money if you don't need it. I typically if you want to start off with a really basic email autoresponder, I would probably say Aweber is a good one. Aweber, Constant Contact, GetResponse. I would look at those 3. And then if you want to go a little bit more advanced and you could do some of the segmentation that I was talking about, I would recommend ActiveCampaign. So ActiveCampaign is basically Aweber and those guys, but you can do more segmentation with it. And that's Aweber, I think, is around 30 to 50 a month-ish, give or take. And then ActiveCampaign, I think, is about 100. So that stuff's all feasible.
I noticed you just mentioned MailChimp in there.
Yeah, MailChimp too. I'm not the biggest. I've used MailChimp for a couple of clients. I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's hard for me to use. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
No,
MailChimp's another one. Yeah.
I know lots of people who started on MailChimp, myself as well, for some businesses, have always had to end up moving away from it because it is limiting, and it does also get more complicated to use when you are ready to move further down the road.
Yeah, it is a good start. Like if you're just starting, because I think MailChimp's free up to 5,000 contacts or I don't know, something like that. So if you're just starting, you could just start with MailChimp and then move to something else once you have some revenue coming in.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that's pretty much it for the questions. I don't know if anybody else has got anything else they want to jump in quickly with, but I think we're done there in the questions.
Sounds good. So to wrap up, if you guys, if you're interested in kind of chatting, getting a sales funnel done for your business, or really just growing your business wherever you're at, kind of taking it to next level, whatever that is for you. Sometimes it's people that are just starting out, taking it to the point where they're getting reliable income. Other times it's you're in the couple $100,000 range, you're trying to take it to $1 million. I have other clients. I have clients that are 30 million, trying to take it to 100 million. So if you're here and you want to go to here, then we should talk. I would say my coaching program is probably the best way to start. We do done for you, so we actually build out whole funnels. So we can talk about that. But for most people, I think the best way to get started is the coaching program. All right. So there's, I won't go into all the details on, exactly what you get. I said before that doesn't really matter. What matters is the end result, so what I've talked about was basically the 8 of the biggest things that I've learned, helping my clients get $50 million in, generating $50 million for my clients. And this is kind of the very, very, very basic level, stuff. I mean, I could add hundreds of things in here, so basically if you want to take your business from here up to here, whatever that next level is for you, and you want to do it in a way that's less, that you're not going to lose money along the way. You're going to make a lot less mistakes, and you're going to do it reliably, and you're going to do it without all that just, frustrations and going to bed and you have no idea the next day if you're going to wake up and, what's going to happen to your business, and like all the mistakes that most people make along the way. I have a lot of experience in a lot of different industries, which kind of makes it really helps coaching people, because I've been through so many different businesses, both my own businesses. I have side businesses and things too. I have partners and revenue share partners and, done for you clients, things like that. And I get to look at all of these different businesses everywhere from, typical coaching client is like, they're at least $100,000 or so in gross for a year, because it's kind of hard. The exception to that is if you have a successful business here and you're starting a new one, that's basically just because of, funds. Yeah, if you want to chat about that, you can, let's see, the link is, we can put it.
Do we drop it in there?
Yeah. It's jeremyreeves.com/Nusi. Is that how you say it? Is it Nusi?
Nusi, yeah, that's it.
So if you want to, it's just an application program or application form, a couple questions, fill it out, and we'll chat on the phone, see if the coaching program is a fit for you. And again, it's really for people that, your business is here and you want to take it to the next level with a lot less overwhelm. I know, every entrepreneur, you suffer from being overwhelmed. You suffer from being stressed out. You suffer from, there's a lot that comes with when you have, I'm sure you've been in this situation where you have questions and you're like, I don't know what to do. I think actually somebody said that. Actually, Mark, how do you know where to start? There's so much to do. That is so common, and it's not just when you're starting. That gets worse as you grow. Not to make you feel bad, but that actually kind of increases as you go, because as your business gets bigger, there's more complexity. You're adding employees, you're adding, various marketing campaigns, you're doing different types of marketing, you have more services. There's a lot more moving pieces. And a lot of people, when they have all of that, they get so overwhelmed, they get burnt out, and then they start destroying their business. They start sabotaging their business. So it is invaluable to have somebody that can look at your business with a fresh pair of eyes, that can look at it, from the outside and say, hey, look, here's what you should do. Just do this. You don't have to worry about this stuff. Do this, get it done. Let's get that live, make some money, use that money to then fund these things, that kind of thing. I can tell you personally, I know I'm talking about, joining my coaching program. And a lot of people don't do what they preach. If you look at my site, I've gotten that a lot, actually. Like, oh my God, you're a sales funnel guy and you actually have a sales funnel. I always laugh at that one. I'm like, really? How do you not? It's kind of like a personal trainer being like 100 pounds overweight. It just doesn't make sense. But I pay, depends on the year and what I'm doing and where I'm at in my business. I typically spend between $20,000 and $30,000 a year on my own coaching. Okay. And that's because, if you're an entrepreneur and you're not investing in your own growth, you're going to stay wherever you are. It's basically impossible to grow your business if you're not growing personally, and so, yeah, so if you're interested in chatting, just go to the link. It's in the chat there. It's, jeremyreeves.com.
I'll email it out as well after okay. We finish with the recording for anyone who drop out for whatever reason. So yeah,
sounds good. Yeah, so Nathan will send that out to you via email. It's in the chat link if you want to just click it now and go. And there's an application there. And hey, look, I'm not. You can probably tell. I'm not a pushy guy whatsoever. I know a lot of people are kind of nervous, about filling out applications. And getting on the phone and like the guy's like pushing you to buy it. I hate that. Cannot stand it. And one of the big things is I don't want to work with somebody that doesn't want to work with me. They're not sure. I only take people on that are like, I can't wait to get started. Let's do this. Let's make a lot of money together. We'll have fun, that kind of thing. So don't be worried about that. if that's one of your concerns, because I'm just not that kind of guy whatsoever. I've had tons and tons and tons of people over the years. I've turned away $20,000 projects. Let's just put it that way. Very frequently, I probably turn down between, I don't know, 50 to 100 grand a year in projects, because I don't want to do it. Whether it's in like a weird, you can imagine the types of projects that come my way. I've gotten a lot of things for like weird sex stuff and things like that. The one was about there's some kind of weird fetish about dragons eating you. I don't know. It's very strange. I don't know. But yeah, so so I'm not like that whatsoever. So don't be worried about that. But anyway, go to jeremyreeves.com/Nusi and we'll chat and see if you're a fit. If you are, great. Sign you up. If you're not, it's totally fine. I can help you, do whatever you need. I'm there to help you. I actually have a website called funneltalent.com. So if you need whatever designer, whoever to help you build your funnel, build all this stuff out, I can help put you in the right direction. If you need a course, I can kind of give you my recommendations or whatever. So yeah, so that's about it.
All right, then. Well, thank you so much for that, Jeremy. That's been brilliant. I've learned a lot myself there as well. So
nice.
yeah. So thank you very much, and thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you've been able to get as much out of this as well as I have. So definitely be sure to check out that link. Go and see if Jeremy can help you out there with your business as well. I'm sure he can. And like I said, we'll be sending out an email now shortly, so where you can get that link again, and you can also have a link to watch the replay if there was anything you missed, if you had to drop out for a second. So thank you very much, guys, and we shall see you on the next webinar. Cheers, then. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Cheers, Jeremy.
You too.